Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome to Midnight Mandela. Okay, let's see who's in. Shari, I already saw you, even though you weren't first, I saw you first. Leah Smith, Recall Vector, Brian Bradshaw, Ronan the Voice, Crunchy Bee, Truth of You and Me, Bill Knight, Sapioid, Space River News, Morpheus Dreams of Sleep, Kit Kat Bee. Did I get that one yet? Janice Windsor. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so, kind of wanted to cover this one first just because it was so interesting. So we'll do a little bit of world news first and then to the Mandelas. So people who want to hear about the Mandelas, skip ahead until I stop talking about the world news and then you'll get all Mandelas, or hopefully all Mandelas. Okay, so this one's been making the rounds. If you guys keep up with the conspiracy channels, you may have heard about this. It's blowing up real fast. This organization, COVID-19 criticalcare.com, is the magic URL you want to look at. So basically, it's an alliance of critical care doctors, world renowned on many cases, have banded together to look for treatments for the control virus. So here's the thing is that they're looking for old school treatments that are affordable and might already work. And they were checking all through all the research. And they found a very promising one, a very, very, very promising one. And I used to be involved in research, so I can tell you that the numbers that they came up with on these studies for this medication are pretty shocking. It's actually pretty rare that you find a medication that works this well on anything. Okay, and so what's the magic medication? It's Ivermectin, Ivermectin. Okay, so if you go to their website, this is one of their main guys, who is the spokesman in this case, who gave testimony recently at a Senate committee, just kind of outlining a lot of the research, and that he really feels that this medication should be investigated further and basically just use it right now because it's that good. And so anybody who is thinking, hydrochloroquine or any of that stuff, the results here are just completely slaughtering those other medications. So you can look here on this part, ivermectin in the prophylaxis and treatment of C19. If you click on that, there's like about 30 studies that have been done already. Some of them have pretty good control arms, stuff like that. Some pretty decent quality research. Some are better than others. Out of about the 30, there's only one that didn't find positive for ivermectin. The other 29 found some amazing, in some cases amazing, in sometimes cases just pretty impressive results. Okay, so what they're doing here is they're going over, now keep in mind these are some of the top doctors in the world in this group, and they're not politics doctors who are basically just talking heads. They actually are on the front lines treating people, and they have come up with this protocol for treatment, and they go over it here. And some of these you can look at yourself. Say you get it. Most people don't get it really bad, but nobody wants to be sick for any longer than necessary. So one of their first ones is methylprednisone. Basically, it's a corticosteroid, and various corticosteroids are being used in many hospitals right now for it because there's a big inflammatory problem that seems to be associated with the C. Ascorbic acid, that's vitamin C. Keep your vitamin C doses good. Thiamine. This one is for in-hospital treatment. I don't recommend you take all that. Some of these people are like really sick. Like, for instance, if you're really sick, heparin to keep the blood flowing. But there's the magic ivermectin, and you'll see this. There's something neat about ivermectin. It has been shown to work both as a preventative, they call it prophylactic. So that if you take it, you can, in many cases, a large percentage of the people who take it don't get tested positive. Like, it just does something where it I'll go over it a little bit, but vitamin D, you definitely want to keep your vitamin D status up. Vitamin C, aka ascorbic acid, uh, and these two, C and D, are ones that you can kind of take pretty much a lot, and there hasn't been really any documented downsides to it. Because some of the other vitamins, if you crank on them too hard, it creates imbalances and things. But C and D seem to be pretty much don't interfere with other things too much. So those two are ones I definitely recommend people keep a good stock in their system in advance before you get sick, and not just for the C, but for anything. It seems like those two are very important for this timeline, and also magnesium. Okay, so now they're going over what ivermectin can do: prevents transmission, hastens recovery, avoidance of ICU admission, lessens mortality, blah, 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 blah. It's like the magic, the holy grail almost. It's almost so good it's scary, but these are all different studies done all over the world, so it's not just these guys. All right, so then talking about prophylactics. So basically, prophylaxis, basically what they did was they treated a bunch of nurses in a heavily sea-infested area, and they treated like 200 nurses with ivermectin, and then they left like 100 with no treatment. And the 100 that got no treatment, other than they wore masks and the usual stuff, they all did the usual preventatives. But they said that out of the 100 that did not get treated, about 58%, I think it was, ended up testing positive. Out of the 200 that got treated with ivermectin, zero tested positive. So it does something, so you don't get the nasty flu thing. Or you're way less likely to get it. Yeah, it's 58%, I remember correctly. And so I don't think I remember the exact numbers right. Maybe it was like 788 and 400, 788 treated and 400 not, something like that. But I know it was 2 to 1. It was a lot. There's a whole bunch of studies in here. I'm not going to go over them all because you'll just die of old age. But the other thing he puts in here is well, first of all, this is kind of a graphical explanation of some of this of the main studies. So this is for mortality. So the way this works is that 1 would be like not good for anything, like it doesn't hurt and it doesn't harm. Okay, and then as it goes to 0.1, that is more and more good, like positive results, and like it does the effect that you think it's going to do. So when it gets to 0.1, it's 99% that it is doing something, basically. Now, it could be that it's only doing this much, but it is doing something. What's neat about these studies is that it's not just statistically significant. The effect is very strong. I mean, you're not just helping like a little bit, like hydroxychloroquine. There was, it helps some, and remdesivir helps some, but you're not going to be like writing home to mom over it. This is the kind of thing you might write home to mom over, the kind of results that they're getting with this. Okay, summary of studies on that area. Then they're looking at population. Well, ivermectin has been used for like, I don't know, it's like 40 years. It's an old school, cheap, and fairly safe medicine. So it's like one of the main medicines they use in the world for all kind of things. So conveniently, there are some areas that a lot of people are already on ivermectin because it's really good for parasites. And so they found very unusually low cases of positive control virus in that region because the people are already on ivermectin for this other stuff. And just so happens they didn't get COVID either. And here's they're talking about studies for post-COVID-19 syndrome, like kind of like long COVID, where people just have trouble kicking the C down to the curb and they feel tired for a long time. So they used it for dosing for that, and they were able to cure, what was it, like 90% of the people or something, 87% with 2 doses and another 7% with additional doses. History and safety. You can read all this yourself. I do suggest that you really look into this. Here is their protocols for outpatient treatment if you got out of the hospital. Suggested doses by body weight. Somewhere in here is also suggested doses of prevention in case you're totally healthy. Where's those? See if I can find that. This is a long paper. These people, between them, they've had thousands and thousands of papers that they publish. So these are not lightweights in the field by any means. And it's a very nice paper. I mean, I've read enough of these, and darn it, where is the preventative one? Well, anyway, it's in there somewhere. But basically, it's vitamin D, vitamin C, ivermectin, and like 3 others. I think zinc was in there. I don't know a ton about zinc and the other 2 as far as, safety issues. I know C and D are fairly safe. Okay, so I just really wanted to go over that. COVID-19criticalcare.com. I really suggest that you look into this. Actually, it was another doctor that recommended this information to me. And I just wanted to say a little bit about ivermectin. Ivermectin is a neat little drug. Now, in my timeline, it was just used for like larger parasites like worms and stuff, worms and weird like bugs, like bigger bugs, macro size bugs. But that's a problem all over the world. So it was used, like as a dewormer, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I was reading up on it, and it's kind of interesting because it's kind of got a little Mandela feel to it, because I read an article that said, well, we used to think that ivermectin worked by blocking these GABA channels. It's basically the biology of how it works. For all these gajillion years, that's what we thought. But just recently, we realized that we were totally wrong, and it actually works this total other way. And the way it supposedly works is that in this timeline, a lot of parasites are able to fool your immune system. Now, in my old timeline, they would just kick your butt and your immune system would fight them. But in this timeline, they're like wimpier but sneakier. And so they have these mechanisms to kind of dismantle and fool your immune system. And they're able to stay in your body a long time because your immune system doesn't see them. So what ivermectin does is it actually attacks the part of the parasite that dismantles your immune system. So humans don't have genetics to dismantle immune systems because we don't live inside another organism, and we don't need to do that. So ivermectin doesn't affect humans very much because the thing that it operates on is not something that our body is involved with. Only parasites are involved with that, which is fooling your immune system. So what ivermectin does is it blocks the immune system blocking of the parasite, thereby exposing the parasite directly to your immune system. Basically, the parasite comes on the radar of your immune system, and then your immune system will kick its butt in most cases. Sometimes you need to do a couple doses because you'll have like eggs of the parasites that'll hatch, and then the ivermectin will get those. But anyway, so in this timeline recently, they discovered that ivermectin works in a totally different way than they ever knew before. And also they're saying that it has been already discovered to work on things like dengue fever and Zika, which I've never heard of before, but that is now the story. So I do suspect that ivermectin may be a little bit different of a beast than was in my old timeline. Almost nobody ever heard of it being an antiviral. It usually isn't a dewormer and is still referred to it as thus. I think almost nobody knows that it works on Zika and dengue now, and always has. So very interesting that ivermectin has sort of been like repurposed or something for the job. But okay, so that's that spiel we've already went through that one. So I had a couple doctors recommend to me that I just thought this was really interesting. You can get this if you want it for human use. You can get it. You have to get a prescription, and good luck because it's not approved for use for the sea. But for pets like horses or dogs and cats, it's very easily obtainable. And consider the fact that ivermectin is made in just the same lab, no matter which creature is going to get it. So I was just checking on Amazon Prime here. And what do you know? I was laughing because apparently humans have been buying this. This one's for horses, ivermectin pasty wormer, apple flavor, 1.87%. Humans have been buying this for years, apparently, for scabies and rosacea with many good reviews. So the whole concept of, well, anyway, you can make your own decisions. I mean, obviously, it'd be tricky. You have to make sure that you get an oral use one because they do make washes for the fur, and you don't want to get that one. And you do want to make sure that there's only ivermectin and inert ingredients in there and not any other thing, which is the case for this one. But yeah, it's interesting to read all these reviews. Somebody bought them they got infected with sandworms, and there's a bunch of scabies ones and a bunch of rosacea ones. So apparently it doesn't even taste that bad because all these human users have informed that it tastes like Vaseline, which is not the best flavor in the world, but is definitely not the worst when it comes to medicine. So anyway, this has gone viral, this info here, because this guy's Senate testimony has made it onto Fox News, and people are buying up ivermectin. So, like, this paste may not be available all that much longer. So I just wanted to alert you to this. All right, so there's that. But yeah, the name of the game is anti-inflammatory. But that one, ivermectin seems like it both exposes the germs to your immune system. It is also a very potent anti-inflammatory, which is very interesting. It's almost like custom made. Yeah, sapioid. Correct. Yeah, sapioid's putting it up. Thank you. Doctors in Canada are going crazy. Surgeons demand a law to force patients having a test before surgery. Surgeons demand a law to force patients to have a test. So what, surgeons are demanding that people be tested for the control virus? I wonder if it's all the surgeons or just the certain surgeons that the government decided to have on the news. Because it's kind of interesting. You talk to, doctors on the TV, and then you talk to doctors at your own hospital, and you hear a whole nother story. So anyway, basically the ivermectin has, if you start looking at the studies, like one of them, they split the group into 100, there was like 200 kind of sick people and 200 really sick people. And so they split it into ivermectin versus hydrochloroquine. And for the really sick people, like for hydroxychloroquine, it was 30 people died, and for ivermectin, 1 person died. I mean, it was that much difference. So it's not just like your garden variety anti-inflammatory. So ivermectin is basically, it comes from apparently this bacteria that was discovered in a patch of soil in Japan 40 years ago. And so I think they can synthesize it now pretty cheaply. But the inventors supposedly made it free for the world. Like they have the patent, but they didn't charge for use. So it's pretty cool. So there's no money in it whatsoever for Big Pharma, and I'm sure they don't care for it. Unlike these other fancy medications. Remdesivir has a huge patent and markup, cajillions of dollars. Or you could pay like $2 and get get Ivermectin. I think you can pretty much guess that they would rather sell you that Remdesivir. Okay. Another front, like we haven't seen enough ridiculousness. So I think this was the, Austrian Parliament. I'm not going to play too much of it, but basically in the Austrian Parliament, this guy got one of those rapid tests, and I've already covered that they're not that accurate. And he put a little Coke on it, Coca-cola, and guess what tested positive? Coca-Cola tests positive for the C. So that's him in front of the Austrian Parliament. So it's not like some kind of YouTube scam, sleight of hand or anything. He does it all in front of the Parliament. So that's one of the latest ha-has going around. Apparently it's a very replicable that Coke is bad for you because it is full of C. C for Coke. Okay. The Coca virus, the Coca-Cola virus. All right, and then for you guys in England, we have to have a bit of posh prejudice. England will no longer require high-value travelers, business travelers, to quarantine. So all the rest of you suckers gotta lock down, but guess who done gotta? It's the rich muckety-muck. Some business travelers. I like how they say business travelers, but then when you read it, it kind of isn't just business travelers. Senior company executives whose in-person presence is required for business dealings that have significant economic benefits will no longer have to quarantine when they come into England. But then, like, I don't know if this article have it, but down at the bottom, then they said, and some others won't have to either, not just the business people. They try to make it sound like it's for your economic benefit that they're doing this, but then they slip in stuff like sports people, performing arts professionals, certain performing art professionals, TV production staff, journalists, newly signed elite athletes will also be exempt from quarantine beginning Saturday. Official guidance on the changes in qualification have not yet been detailed for the public, according to the tweets. All right, I think that's all the exciting part there. Just a little bit of elitism to mark the evening. Okay, I think that is all of my world news, and then we can get on to the Mandelas. Has anyone heard of the Mandela Effect? I heard about it yesterday. It blew my mind. Just wondering if no, I haven't heard of Mandela Effect. Okay, I don't know why the name's already got me laughing. Mandela Effect is a two-photon interference effect in quantum optics, which was demonstrated in 1987. The effect occurs when two identical single photon waves enter a 1-1 beam splitter, one in each input port. Okay, I might have to click the wiki because I still don't get it. When the temporal overlap of the photons and the beam splitter is perfect, the two photons will always exit the beam splitter together in the same output mode. The photons have a 50-50 chance of exiting either output mode. If they become more distinguishable, the probability of them going to different detectors will increase. In this way, the interferometer can accurately measure bandwidth, path, lengths, and timing. Okay, I have no idea what that really all means. The temporal overlap. How do you know the temporal overlap of the photons? And so I guess if there's temporal overlap, they have the, I don't know. I don't get it. All right, let's see. Iranian spider-tailed viper. Okay, let's check that out. Looks like it's got a spider and a snake in the same name because I know you guys love both of those. Oh, that one's been on. Yeah, it has a tail that looks like a creepy, icky spider. Yes, that one's been on. I'll show you guys anyways. That one actually, I think I had that as the front, the thumbnail ones. Okay, so that's the tail. It looks like this creepy spider. So I guess it wiggles its little spider tail, and for some strange reason, that's supposed to attract rodents and stuff for din-dins. Yucky, yucky. But yes, that little guy's been on. So yeah, I had like a close call. I almost got exposed to the control virus. I do this volunteer thing, and I do it on Fridays. And I forgot to go. Like 3 weeks ago, I completely just spaced out. I think the Christmas rush. And late on Friday night, long after I should have been there, I'm like, no, it's Friday. And I didn't go. So I'm like, oh, well, what are you going to do? It's not like they're just, they have to have me to function anyways. There's other people there. So I felt bad. So I'm like, well, I'll go for sure the next week. I won't be a dork. The next week, I hear that they are canceling it because they were exposed to the C virus. So I'm like, yeah, everybody's exposed sometimes. But it turns out that the week after they did have it, and it turns out that they actually did test positive for the C. So they were contacted by contact tracers who said that they had been exposed. And they had felt slightly under the weather that week, and they had thought that they were just working too hard. But then when they were told that they were exposed, they went and got the test. Now, who knows, how accurate those tests are. But of the household, the wife and the son tested positive, and the husband tested negative. And so they quarantined for the 10 days, and then they were back. But they said they just, like one of them felt tired with a headache for a day or two, and one felt tired and had a 99-degree temperature, which is not that much. But nothing major. I mean, like they wouldn't have even stopped doing their lives if it hadn't been for the positive test. So they were very careful about taking anti-inflammatories and stuff because they had been kind of keeping up on it. But it doesn't sound like it was going to be a big deal for them either way. So what was good about it is because I forgot to show up, it meant that I was never exposed to them when they had the C, and so I didn't have to quarantine, because if I have to quarantine, that means I probably have to shut down the store, which would kind of suck. Especially right before Christmas. If I'm going to shut down, it better be during the slow season. All right, hopefully I haven't missed anything. The lightweight particle experiment, it reminds me of Mandela Effect if you kind of get the science of what they are saying, in my opinion. I don't really get the science, so, I mean, I see that word temporal. It sounds kind of weird. Another example of fate in motion, those are meant to be safe or kept safe. You know, it wouldn't be the first time I thought I did something really stupid and then it turned out to be for the better. Like, no, how could I forget? You know, and then, I mean, it really wouldn't be that bad if I had to shut down the store, but I wouldn't want to do it right before Christmas because it's insanely busy right then. I call those time-locked events. Yeah, it sounds like Doctor Who, where they say certain events have to happen, like they're destined in some form or another to occur. I don't know. I hear a lot of spiritualists say that it's like that. Like there's certain milestones that are going to occur in your life, but other things, a lot of what's in the middle is kind of depends on the circumstances and where your mind is and stuff. That would kind of fit with what we see with the timelines too, though, because like you'll experience different versions of people, and a lot of details will be different, but there'll be certain things that are the same in each of their lives. All right, so let's see. You're done. Next. Okay, this is kind of an observation, not by me, but a lot of people on Retcon, starting about 3 days ago, said that they made the comments 3 days ago that they had been noticing a difference in where the sun was mostly setting. Some people said rising. And some people said the arc of where it's moving. So there seems to have been some kind of rather sudden shift in that. I definitely noticed it's really low on the horizon, but I've been complaining about that for like a couple of years now. It just never really feels like it's the middle of the day. I mean, yeah, the sun used to be a little lower in winter, but nothing like this. I mean, it feels like it crawls along the horizon. I never feel like it's the middle of the day because the sun is always too low. It always feels like it's either early in the day or late. It never feels like noon for me. But what was it? A couple months ago, we were talking about even on Mr. MBB 333 had people on saying that the sun was going further north, I think, for the sunset. And I did notice that because the light was coming through a part of the building at work that it never was able to access before, which is like the door, and it was kind of coming through the crack in the door, and it made the door look like it was open when it wasn't, because the sun could never get through that crack before. So apparently we've had another one of those. I haven't specifically noticed anything myself, but there was a lot of people chiming in on that one. Okay, now I want to go through some, I didn't think I wanted to end there. Okay. Indicator photos. I'm still seeing changes, even since last time I went through. So it's not on every one, but it's like things are still shifting around. So whatever this thing is, for sure, I don't remember. I don't know what. It looks like a giant piece of plastic on top of the heads here of Mount Rushmore. And this thing, it looks like a giant, I don't know what it is. It looks like wire or something. And it looks like there's like a little permanent housing structure up here now. So that stuff wasn't there. I also am suspicious about these bushes, but not as much as the bushes I'm going to show in a little bit. Let's see. Wait. I don't think they're all in order. Some of these I didn't notice anything obvious in, but okay. The scrapage around Lincoln looks a lot bigger to me. Way out here. And I think Washington is out even more. He's sneaking out. See this house thing. That might be the one I was seeing before, but apparently there's other stuff up here now that wasn't there before. Washington coming out. There's some scraping in here that I don't remember being there. These harsh scrapes. Which is these ones right here. It's these little bushes that I don't remember being in here. It's also, it looks like it rained or something. It's a little bit wet in here. So in this timeline, it rained a little bit before this picture was taken, and the bushes were, I don't remember there being any little green bushes in here, basically. It really feels to me like Washington's gotten more out. I looked through it earlier, so I'm going to just cram through the ones I didn't see anything on. We covered that one last time. This one, this little pocket here, I don't remember this little dot thing here. So what's been going on here is the shape of this road stays the same, but the pyramids are shrinking in comparison. So when this first came out, the pyramids were really big and there was a little bit of road. And so now if you weren't paying attention, you would just think, oh, well, the shape's about the same. But because the pyramids are smaller, it means that this whole enclave is like way, way, way bigger. Very, very, very sneaky. And it looks like they're starting to have more stuff up in here now. Also, this is new. Now, keep in mind, this is the same old photo, so it shouldn't have any new stuff. Even if they built new stuff since this photo was taken, it should not be on this photo. So this here's new here. I don't know what's going on in there. It's like dirt colored. I don't know if that's growing more enclave in there. This additional road in here is new. And this stuff down here is all new. All right, nothing obvious. Okay, this one, it's kind of subtle, but hopefully you regulars remember a couple weeks ago I said Jesus has no food on his plate. All the plates in front of him had no food. And I said I don't remember the plates in front of Jesus all being empty. It's just sort of symbolic that all his plates are empty. Well, they're not all empty now. I saw today that there is a little something on one of the plates, but it is nice and bright orange, so I wouldn't have missed it. I wouldn't have said there is nothing on his plates. One pajou, there it is right there. Dong. Okay. Also, he's got a half-eaten loaf of bread there, so he's been chowing. But beyond that, remember how we were saying, oh, there's all these little funky potato-looking bread blobs. Well, now there's tomatoes all laid out. There's less bread blobs and some are tomatoes. So that, or something that looks like a tomato anyway. So like there are tomatoes. So there were no tomatoes on, there was no tomatoes anywheres, frankly, but certainly not laying all over the tablecloth. Why in the heck would they not put them on a plate? All these plates are like this one. Most of these plates are empty, but they have the bread and the tomatoes laid all out everywhere. The floating plates are still on that side. I also do not remember this very strange flask thing blocking this plate. I think it was over there somewhere or something, but it just wasn't. I could see all these plates and see more clearly that they were empty. But the tomatoes, yes, the tomatoes. There was no freaking tomatoes, people. Oh, there's no tomatoes. So you can see there's a lot fewer bread now, and there's more tomatoes, but it's like the bread turned into tomatoes. Did they even have tomatoes then? I don't know. But apparently they did in this timeline. The only other thing I noticed is that the knot over on this tablecloth is weird now. It used to look like... hopefully you can see it. It used to look like the one on here, but now it's kind of all scunched up weird. I don't know. It's a minor thing, but I did notice that. And those are very new changes, especially those tomatoes and this, because it was only like, what, 2 weeks ago I said the plates were empty in front of Jesus. Oh, and the other thing is the expression. I just saw this like in the last few days. The expression on Jesus looks very different now. Now, what I remember him looking was very, like a couple weeks ago, he looked very serene, kind of like that holy look. But now he just looks kind of troubled. He looked more feminine and serene. Now he looks kind of, I don't know, kind of like it's a real Spanish face. And kind of like these big eyebrows. And he just looks, not too happy. So that's a whole different look on the face for me. These other guys aren't so different, but okay, so now this one, I was laughing. Okay, these feet, they keep changing. So the last time it was not 2 forward feet on one side and 2 pointing that way. That was not, there was at least one pointing up that way. So I think it's these 2 feet that have changed, because this one is the same. This one has been slowly coming out of the circle for a while. So I know that one didn't change, but there were not 2 facing forward last time. So something, originally they were all these were facing that way and all these were facing that way, but it keeps changing. They're like he's dancing around. His feet keep moving. And it's been a little while since I've seen a shift on these feet, but so this one is out and this one is part way, and then these 2 are forward. It was absolutely not like that last time. His face looks even more divided, with like he's got one blue eye and one black eye. It's weird, very weird. Okay, so there's the indicator photo. So I'm still seeing changes in about 1/3 of the photos, which is a lot more than I've seen in a while, except for the last 2 weeks when there was a lot. He's doing the shuffle dance. Yep. Whoop. Sorry, I already closed it. Glass bottles. Yeah, I'm guessing that glass one might be like a little thing of oil or something, but still weird. Yeah, there was only wooden containers for me in the past. And did the random people even afford glass cups? Wouldn't they use terracotta cups? Yeah, it was wood for me. There was never terracotta. It was wood. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could always say artistic license. But also, technology is going backwards in time, so I'm suspecting that down the line we're just going to have that glass was gone way back, and I think tomatoes were from the New World. South America were not introduced. Yeah, I don't know. When did tomatoes come to Europe? I'm not 100% sure those are tomatoes. They look like it. I mean, they're the same shape and they're red with that same. Tomatoes arrived in Europe in the 16th century, although how they got here is unclear. Yeah, so they shouldn't have had tomatoes. So, I don't know, was it like, what else looks like a tomato, or is it just, I don't know, but I'm calling them tomatoes because I don't know what else. Let me see if it says, what fruit are in the Last Supper? Pomegranates. Okay, they look kind of dinky for pomegranates. I mean, really, pomegranates are a pretty big thing. Now, last time I checked, what did Jesus eat? They said that they couldn't really tell other than the bread, because they couldn't make out what was on the plates, and other than the. And I think even the bread wasn't even visible back then. Wine and bread, not lamb. After the painting's most recent restoration, which took 21 years and ended in the late 90s, additional dishes appeared on the table for the first time. Yeah, interesting way to put it, isn't it? Including one that seemed a bit out of place: eels with orange slices. Are you serious? That was not the answer I read last, 6 months ago. Well, this certainly wasn't a common dish in Jesus' time. Eels and oranges were a common pairing in the 15th century Italy and were two items that appeared on Da Vinci's own preserved grocery lists. So Da Vinci put eels with orange slices. What are them other things? Jesus' Last Supper menu revealed in archaeology study. Bean stew, lamb, olives, bitter herbs, fish sauce, unleavened bread, dates, and aromatized, spacing out here, aromatized wine likely were on the menu at the Last Supper. All right, now they're talking about the real Last Supper. Okay, I'm talking about Da Vinci's. All right, so they're saying his is not historically accurate. Leonardo's mural derives from centuries of iconographic codes embodying the sacrament of the Eucharist. The Last Supper has a very strong symbolic meaning, and this does not help the historical reconstruction. All right, so they're saying plates, bowls, and jars were likely made of stone. I don't know. I mean, wouldn't they just use wood or horns or something? Stone is really hard to deal with. Another possibility is red terracotta, blah, blah, blah. All right, they're not really talking about Da Vinci there, so let's just clarify. Pomegranates, perhaps. On a well-ironed tablecloth, we see bread, wine, and plenty of fruit. Yeah, that's new. There was no fruit. Bread, wine, yeah. But I used to just see bread and wood cups. You would assume there was wine in there, but... All right, I don't know. I don't, doesn't really look like pomegranates to me. Pomegranates are a lot bigger than that. All right, I give up. Okay, it's one page. Okay, here's a question for you. How bad a fever at what point do you worry that your fever is so high that you better call the hospital? Like, what's a bad fever? Because I think it's changed. I have a certain number in my mind where they used to say, like, that's a really bad fever. And when I look back on it, I think that it has been shifting for a while. Because when I look back when I was like 18, I think it was an even different number, but I think it's shifted again rather recently as to what is considered like a, oh my God, you might fry your brains out style fever. So I better do something. What do you guys remember? No cheating now. No cheating. Look, you got to do it from memory. Meanwhile, here's one I almost put on the thumbnail, but instead I put a nice horse on there. But this one was a, you know, runner-up. Ugh. Okay, so you've seen spiders hanging from webs, but have you ever seen... Oops, not slug. Have you ever seen slugs hanging? Slugs just dangling down? Have you ever been sitting there and a slug went right in front of you like the spiders do? Because apparently they can do that now. They can hang by their slime, and they even mate by their slime. So their slime is like way more effective. They can use slime like Spider-Man and just dangle from it. And then they'll even like mate on the end of their slime. So, I mean, have you ever seen that? You're walking along and suddenly you smack into a slug hanging from a tree? Because I sure as heck have never heard of that. And it's gross. And I could like really live without this particular Mandela. Because at least a spider web isn't slimy. Ugh. I mean, it's like, God, you just whap into some slime. Suddenly there's a dangling, ugh, this is just gross. There's all kinds that could do it too. There's, ugh. I mean, they used to walk on their slime, but they didn't dangle by their slime, so it's now a thing. Be careful when you're walking. There's more creepy crawlies out in this timeline. Ugh. Ironically, there's not that many photos of it. I think it's kind of a fresh one. There's a couple slugs doing their reproductive ceremony. And these are giant man parts, and the man parts come out of their head. So the two heads are in the same spot on slugs. Bet you never heard that one before. I'm very suspicious of that one. They have to hang upside down because their man parts are so big that that's the only way they can get them out of their head. I'm not making this up. I swear to you that this is reality as we now know, as we now are experiencing. Just in case you thought the slime wasn't weird enough. Tomatoes, what? I was looking at this picture for the last 4 days. There were no tomatoes. I think I saw it yesterday, the tomatoes. Yeah, the drinking glasses look super modern. Though the whole thing looks totally modern, though, to me. And the story is that it wasn't inaccurate for the time. But I'm wondering if some of that stuff's going to go backward in time and become accurate. So the story right now is Da Vinci didn't make it accurate, but I don't know if it's going to stay that way. I saw a mixed Emmy vid today, and Frosty the Snowman says, "Happy birthday when he comes to life." Anyone know this? Is it an effect? I have never heard of Frosty the Snowman saying happy birthday when he comes to life. I don't know. Have any of you ever heard of that? That one's a new one on me. Is Lincoln sinking? He was kind of low for me, but they do look different. I don't know how to describe it. The faces look different, but I can't really say what it is from last time. Jupiter and Saturn are going to align this month. Hasn't happened for 800 years. Yeah, I know, Sandman, but I swear there's like another one of these hasn't happened in a cajillion years celestial alignments like 3 times or 4 times a year anymore. So I don't know. They're getting kind of like, it's getting kind of old. You can't get that excited anymore. All of a sudden, my fish food almost won't sink, and before it would all have sank in a matter of minutes, not one bit would remain on top. Even my dad said, "Did you get new fish food?" It's funny how stuff like that is, I mean, like it's such a tiny little thing, but yeah, all my fish food used to sink pretty fast. It would get soggy and sink within like a couple, 5 minutes or something. I don't have fish right now, but I do remember that. That's interesting. It's the same thing of food, so. $38 was normal. I'm going to have to do the C2. Let's see, centigrade to Fahrenheit, because I don't remember. All right, so get rid of the slugs thing. Get rid of that one. 38 was normal. 39 going to emergency entrance of hospitals. 39 Celsius is 102. Okay, so 102. Yeah, that's about where I remember it. Going to the emergency entrance of hospitals, or even calling the emergency services to pick you up. Yes, okay. Because I remember it to be about 103 Fahrenheit, which would be a little over 39 C, is when they start to went, holy crap, your temperature is really high. Oops, what did I do? I don't know. Okay, so the reason I even looked was because for one of the control virus trials, there was a thing on that this nurse had a temperature of 104.9 after she took the vaccine. Let me see if I could find that one. Which is 40.5 C. How convenient of them to make the conversion for me. So I'm like, 104.9? That means you're dying. Like, your brain is like toast. I mean, in my old, not too long ago, a few years, if you had like a tick away from 105-degree fever, you're worried about brain damage. So I'm like, what? And they're making it out like it's no big whoop in this articles that I've been reading. Oh, she had a temperature of 104.9, but, it was all worth it. I'm like, what? Doesn't she have permanent brain damage? So, let me see if I can find it now. So, it seems like they were saying, all right, here it still says 103, but a lot of places they were saying 105 now. Like, if you have 105 fever, then you should worry about it. If it gets to 105, call. Now I can't find it, of course. Let me see. All right, I'm putting in 105 just so I can cheat. 105, go to emergency room. 103, contact healthcare provider. All right, this is the one I think I was seeing. Anyway, it seems like this is really shifting, because for me, when it was like getting towards 103, you would already be really worried about like dying. If you've got up to 105, any fever that goes above 105 and does not come down with treatment is life-threatening medical emergency. So basically what this nurse woman did is it was 104.9 and she just took some like Tylenol and then it came down. So what they're now saying is like, well, just take some Tylenol, and then if it doesn't come down after that, then it's an emergency. But I just don't remember 105 being such a laissez-faire attitude. In fact, I kind of remember really that once you got over, like, way back, when you'd say, I had a fever of over 100. And everybody like, oh my God, you had a fever of over 100. And now you're like, so what? It's not a big deal. And then maybe if it's 105, that's a little exciting. So, but yeah, it was kind of trippy to see this one. She had a fever of 104.9 after the vaccine. So they're talking about all the symptoms that people are having from the pokinator there. And I guess it's not a big deal if you have a 104.9 degree fever. You just take a Tylenol and see if that fixes it. It seemed like a lot. You could have seizures if it's over 103. Yeah, I don't know. They're not really saying that, though. They're saying that it looks like it's 105 is the new cutoff. I thought you're like already got brain damage by 105, to be honest. In my old timeline, that was the under 103 was the cutoff. Like, you didn't want it to get over 103. You're going to like die if it. So anyway, maybe she really did fry her brain because she got 104.9 degree fever. And then she said, and it was all worth it. So I don't think it was. Okay, so, all right. Next one. Now, it is a very common ME that the Rock of Gibraltar is now a peninsula instead of sitting out there in the middle of the Strait of Gibraltar, which is now the Straits of Gibraltar. But what I noticed this week, I've looked at a lot of photos of this, but not in a while. And what I don't remember is all this built up stuff. There's a ton of built up stuff here now. And the images did not used to show. When it first became a peninsula, there was like no buildings, and now we have like this. So the peninsula's gotten fat because there really wasn't that much space out here to build all this crap. And there's even a freaking runway. Look at, there's an airport runway right in front of or behind the Rock of Gibraltar now. All this wasn't there. You really can't find any of those old images that didn't have a bunch of stuff. Look, even this is all built up. There's even a bunch of stuff on the top now. And there's all this walkway and stuff up there. So, yeah, that's not it's not even last year's Rock of Gibraltar for me. Look at all those buildings. There's just nothing that don't have all the buildings. Look at that. Crazy. So, yeah, I mean, if you remember the old iconic image of just the rock all by itself, when it first became a peninsula, it was kind of like that, but not anymore. All built up. Okay, so I think those are all my ones. Now I have other people's ones to do. Oh, you know what? The sun's setting in a new spot. That was by a user named Tea Party Sun. TEAPARTYSON. Brought that thread up on Redcon. Don't want to forget to give credit. I'm glad somebody's keeping an eye out. All right, so now we're getting into a whole bunch that Mark Tyus found. including this one. This is just a really weird structure. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. It's very distinctive. If you've ever seen it, you probably would remember it. So there's this giant weird rock with this weird stairs on it. So you can kind of see it from a distance. This is a very, I mean, this is even cooler than the rock at Gibraltar, really. You think it would be very iconic. And then it has this weird stairs that they've wedged into the crevice. And supposedly there was a big argument between the two cities that are around here about who owns that rock, like what property it is. And so one of the cities started riding on the rock, but then the other city had a big protest. So there's now the first part of Guatape was going to say it was theirs, and they were writing like a G and then the U, but they only got a G and then one stroke done. So it looks like there's a 61 on the rock. And I don't know, if that means anything, but there we go. It looks like 61 or GI or whatever was written. Apparently that the story is that they were going to write Guatape all the way across, and they only got that far. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. GI 61 Guatape. I don't know. It's just strange. This is a cool little location here, though, but I've never seen it, and it is very iconic. The Stone of El Peñol. You could see the 61 or the GI or the GU or whatever you want to call it. So that one was found by Mark Tyus. All right, this one. Because we haven't had enough weird guns on here. This one made me... You thought that weird pan flute style gun was weird. Okay. So cripple stock shot, oops, I spelled it wrong, but shotgun. So apparently there's a, now I'm pretty sure in my old timeline you had to shoot, like, the bullet had to have a straight shot. I don't think you could go like that, but apparently in this timeline you could just bend the stock. Okay, so this is a legitimate shotgun where it just goes around the corner. It shoots. It's like cripple stock. So supposedly these were for people what was the story? If you had a damage to one eye and you wanted to shoot the same way but use your other eye or some kind of weird story like that. I don't know why you wouldn't just heft that thing onto your other shoulder, but so I'm really suspicious about this being possible in the old timeline where you could just have the bullet go around the corner like that without, and still shooting decently. But apparently, like, shotguns can be like pinball machines now. It's like absolutely ridiculous. Twin rocks. Twice rocks with stairs have come up for me this week. Huh, interesting. 61, prepare for a creepy meaning. I actually slapped that into the 61, and it was supposed to be some angel number. 61 number meaning. Reveals that your guardian angels are calling to you to be one of a kind person. A person ready to affect change. Maintain a positive outlook because blah, blah, blah. I think, what is it, hardship or something? Let me just check and see. I mean, I don't know how legit these things are, but strong will, determination, independence, individuality. Be one of a kind. Your angels are working hard behind the scenes to ensure that you and your family will be well taken care of in a financial or material sense. It's important to view your financial material affairs in a positive light. When you see angel number 61 pop up in your life, your angels are telling you that it is time to take the initiative in your efforts to manifest your material desires. Okay. I think we're working on it. It's only the stalk, not the barrel. Oh, okay. Still weird, though. I've never seen that. Let me just look at that again. That actually makes sense because it's just triple stock. Triple stock shotgun. So I guess it's for if you're crippled. Let me just get a better image of it. Huh, that's a weird one. All right, so that one was by Mark Tyus. Okay, this one is really weird because I sell hermit crab shells as one of the things I sell. So I've been dealing with hermit crab issues for years and years. I research them a lot because I don't know why, just because I sell shells, everybody thinks I have all the hermit crab answers. And so the end result is that I have to keep answering hermit crab questions for years and years and years. So I learned all I could about hermit crabs. I researched them so I could answer these freaking questions all the time. So when Mark Tyus came up with this one, I just laughed so hard because, first of all, when I started watching this video, it didn't turn out anything like I thought it would. So I can't play too much of it because it's the BBC, so they'll have a nuclear holocaust if I try to play their video. But what I can do is click. I've had very good luck with just clicking forward bit by bit so you could get the gist.
Watch live and local news on a variety
Okay, first I have to go through
of
the
networks
ads. So
with
sorry.
YouTube TV.
Another ad. Woo! Okay, so just to kind of give you an overview, hermit crabs do not create their own shells. They actually just find old abandoned shells and they stick their body in there. And then as they grow, they need bigger and bigger shells. So if you have a pet hermit crab, you have to keep providing bigger and bigger and bigger shells. So it's always been said that one of the reasons you got to provide a lot of shells is because if you have multiple hermit crabs in there together and one needs a new shell and he can't find one he likes, he might kill his neighbor and steal that guy's shell. So they're pretty aggressive about their shells. And there's been a lot of slaughtered hermit crabs because people did not have plenty of shells. Because if they have plenty of shells, then why pick a fight? Just take one of them nice ones. But okay, so the story now, though, is say that a shell comes available, but it's like too big. Okay. Let me find where the start of this video is. All right, so there's a crab, but that's not what I wanted to show. Okay, so this shell is like big. This one here. And these are all like too small, these crabs. Okay. So they all apparently all just come out to check out the shell. But this is really neat, and it's not how it used to be. What they do is they all line up from largest to smallest. Like crabs weren't even this smart, because they sure as heck weren't in them. Until they make a whole line. So they need to find like a guy that's a little bit like will fit into here and blah blah blah, and they make a whole line. And then when this guy jumps into this shell, then the guy behind him jumps into that shell, and it's like this whole serving line of shells where they all just go bloop up one. I've never heard of that. It's totally ridiculous. So there's like this mass horde of changing of shells. Everybody switches off as soon as the right crabs all. I've never heard of this. It's totally insane. Okay, so he's going to go in the big shell, and then everybody else is going to jump. And so there's like this conga line of shell switching is how crabs change shells in the new storyline, which is crazy. They were never that smart before. It's total insanity. And they wait until the line is complete too. Like they're waiting for that last guy. It's just like hermit crab housing chain life story. There was never a hermit crab. I have seen so many videos on hermit crabs in the wild and this has never come up before. Animals are so smart now. Yeah, I know. Just lowly crabs. Okay, so that was another by Mark Tyus. All these last ones have been Mark Tyus, so good find on that one. All right. Now let's go to Greenland. Microscopic life ice sheet. So we kind of covered this before because there was that Christmas colored algae. It could be red or green that would grow on top of ice sheets. Then it used to be algae that grew on top of ice. But now there's all kinds of junk growing on it, and it's like gross. Algae acts like a black t-shirt. So they're basically saying the algae gets all these colors in order to block the sun from itself, but it's also causing the ice sheets to melt faster than normal. I'm not really worried about it, but these are neither green nor red. They're just dirt colored. Like these are, I guess, all like algae and algae blooms around a field camp in Greenland's ice sheet. So like what an ugly looking ice sheet that looks totally scaggy. I mean, there used to be the crystal white, beautiful snow, and now we've got acres and acres of scunge. It looks terrible. It's not even green or red. It looks like dirt. It just looks like mold. Nasty. So they're basically saying that that's growing all over the place. I mean, it looks terrible. Look at that. I mean, look at that image. It looks... So this is supposed to be an ice sheet. It looks like muck. Microscopic life forms are causing ice sheets to melt faster. No, there's a lot of places don't even have any snow anymore. All right, let me go back. Ooh, look at that image. Is that really Greenland's ice sheet? I can't believe that. That's got to be something else. So anyway, the point is, it's ugly now. I miss my old white ice. Oh, here's another image. I mean, like, it looks all icky. Now, there was one article I was reading where they were saying, like, one of the early explorers described it as rainbow colors in the ice sheet. So I don't know if they're working on a rainbow look, and right now we just got gunge, and then later it'll get rainbowy. Hopefully, because it's not very good looking. Look at that. It looks all filthy. Okay, let's see what you guys are up to. This looks like dirt, honestly, like someone dropped dirt from high altitudes. Yeah, that was my feeling. It was always just chaos switching shells. Yep, I know. They weren't smart enough to line up. That was for sure. Like, they line up. They made a big thing how they line up from small to large. We have crab circles. Speaking of weird circles, there's one more Mandela. Speaking of moldy circles, I was kind of laughing because when I saw this, somebody thought it looked like lichen, and I thought it looked like mold, and then somebody else said it looked like mold. So apparently there's a horse now, a horse called sorel, peacock, leopard, appaloosa. So, I mean, appaloosa were a spotted horse in my old timeline, but nothing like they are now, where they they look kind of, some of them look even kind of moldy, in my opinion. So last time some time ago, I covered ones like, say, this guy. And that was like the extent of it, that we had gotten to this Dalmatian looking animal. But now we have these sorel peacock ones. So they look moldy. Like, doesn't that look like they're moldy? Because not only do they have the spots, but then they have the outlinings of the spots. And then he's got black spots and speckles, and it looks more like a piece of stone pattern than a horse to me. That looks ridiculous too. I think that one's probably exaggerated as to the coloration though, but I mean, dogs don't even have it that good. It's ridiculous. There were some really interesting ones in here too, like this one, peacock, appaloosa. Kind of, oh, there's another one. That one's a new one, basically. They didn't have, I have looked at horses a bunch of times in the last 4 years for the wildest colorations, and we had gotten to the Dalmatian, but that was it. There was one more really weird one. I'm trying to find it now. There's one that had those spots like just on the front half, and then the back half had some white, and then more spots and of different styles, and see, that shows again. So to me, it looks like they've got some kind of deadly disease, moldiness or something. Moldy horses. Oh, this one. This one was a really interesting one. I don't think I could make it any bigger. This one really looks moldy to me. So it's kind of normal back here. Then it's got mold. Then it's got a whole nother spot style here. Yeah, pretty weird. So I call Mandela on that one. And that one's, those were found by Will Work for Answers, user on Retcon. Will Work for Answers. Will Work for Answers finds a lot of stuff too. Mark Ty has found the 4 before that. And then Will Work for Answers. So good find on the crazy horses. And it's hilarious because we've all been looking for crazy horses for a couple years now. And then these guys showed up. Not a lot of photos yet, but I think we'll see more. 101 Dalmatian horse. They're even weirder than Dalmatians. Why not? The ice looks like disease growing on it. This reality is disease. Could be, but we'll see what it grows into. Because like I said, there were some places were describing it as rainbow, and I'm like, well, it looks like dirt, but maybe it will become rainbow eventually. So they're saying it's like bacteria and algae, but it still looks gross. Now Greenland has portions which are green in summer. It's strange. I know. Yep. Yeah, I would not be at all surprised if Greenland turned green and Iceland turned ice. Because that's the way this reality likes to roll. I think they killed other species for their shells. I don't remember them doing that. They would just get, like, abandoned shells. But they would kill each other for shells. I mean, I can't say they never did that, but I don't remember them ever actually killing stuff. I definitely do remember them using odd shells, like, you know, an old abandoned garbage and stuff that's not really a shell. The metallic horses, yep, those are beautiful. They've been on. How is Vancouver? Still 14-day quarantine for international travelers? I believe so. I don't think Canada's going to open the borders for a long time. I don't know what their end game is because it's not like America's going to be getting rid of their COVID in the near future. So are they going to, I mean, like New Zealand, is it New Zealand going to keep their borders shut for 10 years? Because the vaccine has not even been studied to see if it lessens transmission. So Appaloosa never looked like a Dalmatian. They went from gray to faded out white. Yeah, they were blotchy. They weren't speckled. But it's been, I don't know, it's been about 2 years since they got pretty speckly. But this is the first time they look like, now they have the speckles with another color around it. So it looks really weird now. This week I heard of a new beaked dolphin. I might have had that on already. That all of them are new to me, but there were no beaked dolphins to start with. Something sinister going on in Canada. I don't know, you know, I think it could spin out in different ways in different timelines, what will happen in the different locations. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. So I have a buyer who's Canadian, and she said that if you have a residence in Canada, then you don't have to quarantine. She said she can go over there and there's no problemo. So I don't know if she's really supposed to quarantine and she's just not doing it, but she definitely can get over the border. So she bought some stuff for me in control virus infested America, and then she's going to go over the border with her stuff and she has relatives over there and they have property and all that. And she has no problem going over the border. So it's not as closed as they make it out. And it has not been this entire time, according to her. And so she's not lying or anything. I mean, there's no reason for her to. So sometimes you hear this stuff and then you talk to the people who really know, and you're like, wait a minute. Because when she said she wanted to come over and buy stuff, I'm like, oh, how can you get back to Canada with it? She said, oh, I can get over the border, no problem. They fine you if you don't quarantine. I don't know. They're not quarantining. She said she has property, so. I mean, then maybe they're not checking. Like, for instance, California, it is recommended you quarantine when you come back to California. But nobody I know who's come back into California is quarantined for 2 weeks. I mean, unless they're sick, then maybe. But, if they're healthy, they're not doing it. I don't even see what the point is. There's just as much COVID in Arizona as there is here. What is the point of them quarantining when they get here? They could get it from here. They could get it from there. It doesn't matter. It's ridiculous. Just because you magically bop over a line in the dirt does not mean that you're suddenly more dangerous than when you're on the other side of that line in the dirt. I mean, so if I go to the line and then turn back, I don't have to quarantine. But if I step 1 foot over, now I'm like, oh, you better quarantine. It makes no sense. I mean, it would make some sense if, say, California was very virus-free and Arizona was all infested. But with every state being heavily infested, what's the point? It's stupid. You're not keeping the sea out of here. This doesn't even make any sense. It's like the curfews. Squishing everybody into shorter open hours is not going to prevent the sea. It's just going to make it worse. You can still fly in and out of Canada, but you can't drive out or in. Oh, I'm pretty sure they were driving, though. I'm going to have to ask on that. I know they do drive often. I'll check on that. I hate to say it, but Florida looks pretty normal except for masks and a few extra steps at a restaurant. Oh, they're doing fine. I don't see I think it's just going to spread the way it's going to spread. It's got 99% survivability. If we took all this money that we've wasted and just boned up the hospitals really good, I think we would have done a lot more good than what we've done so far. I mean, a lot of the hospitals, they get nearly overrun every flu season anyway. So just 10% more flu cases or whatever cases is enough to really snow them under. And that is part of the problem. And, I've been reading on it, and there's all these articles from like 15 years ago talking about the shrinking emergency room space compared to the population, and how they're cutting space to save money. And every winter there's an emergency in a lot of places, especially certain parts of California are famous for having problems every year. So now that we're having problems, it's like, but you have problems every year. We should be boning up these hospitals so that they're ready for emergencies. But having extra space sitting unused is just a loss of money. So they just cut those, they cut out those extra beds because it's a capitalism. They find you if you don't quarantine. They keep track of you and call you to see where you are. Yeah, I just don't know if that's like if you actually live there, if you have property, maybe they don't. I don't know. She didn't seem to think it was going to be a big deal, though, and they've been traveling back and forth this whole year. Most viruses have an 18-month path of infection. Quarantine was only to help the hospitals make sure they weren't overrun. It wasn't supposed to be forever. Yeah, flatten the curve. So it got flat, and then suddenly the new rule is we have to eradicate it. It's ridiculous. They keep moving the goalposts. Now with the ivermectin option, I think that's really going to, when I'm looking at those studies, they look more effective than the Pokinator, than the Vax. When I look at the effectiveness of the ivermectin to prevent, it's close to 95% as the prophylactic for the prevention, and it works as a treatment, and it even gets rosacea, scabies, and other worms and stuff. I mean, it gets a lot of stuff. I'm like, and it's, a 40-year-old drug with a really good safety record. Now, be advised, you can't just be drinking it like water, because your liver does have to process it, and your liver has its limits, so you can't be whaling down this stuff every day, because it will build up in your system, and you will start to have toxic effects. So if you do take ivermectin, you have to make sure that you really study the dosage. I mean, you're not a horse, so you can't take a full horse dosage. And you can't take it every day for long. They do it for like 3-4 days sometimes, or 1 day and 3 days and 5 days, or like that. But and if it's just for preventative, you don't need to take it much. You don't want to be wailing on it, because you can screw up your liver if you go crazy on it. I mean, same thing with Tylenol and ibuprofen and all those. You can screw up your liver because your liver has its limits. So you can't go crazy. So when I say it's safe, I don't mean it's water. But it's a lot, as used in a reasonable way, it is very safe. Right, stop drinking at 10 p.m. is a magic number. Like at 10:01, the control virus comes out. Yeah, that's how it is here, apparently. I don't know how I've survived, because I've been out past 10 like every night. Don't tell the control virus, because it'll come after me. The curfew is designed to stop idiots getting stupidly drunk, and what then follows? Well, you know what? All the bars are closed, and large gatherings are already banned, so we don't need an additional curfew there's already, all that stuff is already illegal. What is the curfew? Point of the curfew then? In fact, it's already pretty quiet at night, because restaurants have to close at 10. Bars were closed. There's not much going on. All the big party things are all closed, so there's not really much to do. Most idiot episodes occur in the early hours. I don't know about that one, though. That might be a stretch. I'll tell you when the hospitals are pretty empty, and that's like at 6 o'clock in the morning. Other than traffic accidents for people going to work, there's not much going on, because everybody else is snoozing. Trying to make a profit off healthcare is stupid. They shut down more and more hospitals every year because of money. I think there has to be some kind of a balance. I'm not totally against capitalism, but in certain areas, it does not lead to good things if it's pure capitalism. There's probably multiple ways to balance it, and I'm not genius enough to solve it all. I bet the Mandela is. But yeah, you can see where it's just like big pharma, all they care about is money. They don't want to heal you, because then there's no money. Healthy people don't make them any money. They like long-lived people who live in sickness for long periods of time is how they make their money. And so they don't look for treatments. They want to find, they don't look for solutions. They don't look for cures. They look for treatments. They want you to be sick and have to take a pill forever. People are on like 8 or 10 pills a freaking day. Most people, especially if they're a little bit older, I mean, that's ridiculous. That is not health. Here in the UK, youngsters cause major problems in the early hours. Really? No, we're lazy in America, man. There's not much going on in the morning. I'm telling you, people. In fact, when when the police want to bust like a drug den or something, they bust in there at like 5 in the morning because those people are like 6 o'clock in the morning. They're all asleep because they've been up most of the night, and then they crash about 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're in the deep sleep by about 6. And so it's like the perfect time to bust in there because everybody's asleep and not paying attention. So it's their favorite time. This is why they have not released a cure for HIV/AIDS. They merely gave you the treatment. And I'm sure this Pokinator is going to be the same thing. It's not going to stop anything. It's just going to be something that you have to take forever. That's going to be the story. And that's why they don't like this Ivermectin at all, because the Ivermectin is going to totally impinge on their profit margins. Don't understand your point. Merely stated fact about... No, I'm just laughing because it's so different. It's hard for me to imagine troublemakers waking up early, so that's why I say we're just lazy here. Pharma mafia is worse than Italian or Russian mafia. Yeah, I don't know. They're probably similar. They have different MOs, method of operation. Florida doesn't have... Yeah, Florida I don't think is doing much because the governor there is not real into the lockdowns. And he got a lot of flack because they kept saying that Florida was going to go up in flames with cases and with, deaths. I don't know if you remember when the spring break hit and he let it happen, or whoever the governor, I don't even know if it's a girl or not. But it was allowed to continue, and it was in 2 weeks, Florida will have so many dead people that, and it didn't happen. And then when they didn't lock down that much, it's in 2 weeks to Florida, blah, 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 and it didn't happen. And Florida's always about to burn in hell for not locking down. But so the Florida governor just said the regions can make their own decisions, so that the governor's not forcing anything on anybody. So some regions lock down and others are the heck with it, and they didn't lock down. And Florida's fine. I think the Mandela is making our bodies more resilient, though, that fever issue. I do think that there's, it's weird. We shift, and then the viruses shift, and then... Eventually, you just won't get sick. I think that the way the storyline is shifting leaves that as an option, because if the viruses aren't really that strong, but they have a immune system evading mechanism, then all we would need to do is have something that blocked the immune immune evasion, and ivermectin. And I swear it just came out of the blue. Now supposedly this ivermectin has been studied for 4 months or more now, and I have never heard one whiff of this until 2 days ago. I mean, it's always possible I didn't know about something, but it is very suspicious that it came out of the blue, out of nowhere, and all we were hearing about was remdesivir and hydroxychloroquine. So, I could see it this way then. If germs aren't that strong and parasites aren't that strong and our immune system can kick their butt, but there's just one little problem, we're a little imbalanced from something, that would be easily fixed, because they could just go, oh, wait, we realized you need vitamin Zuzu or something, and turns out that, this is an unknown vitamin that we now realize is lacking, and just take this vitamin and you'll be way healthier, and your immune system, your autoimmune condition will be gone. Oh, basically, they're spinning the imbalance story, and if there's an imbalance, then all we have to do is figure out what the imbalance is and fix it. So that could just come down the chute at any time and solve a lot of problems. It's kind of laid out, and then we would be very strong, right? Of course, another path could be that autoimmune system spiral, autoimmune problem spiral, and, it all goes to hell in a handbasket. And that could be another timeline. So definitely think about what timeline you prefer. I want the good one, so, you might want to go there too. That way we can both be there. The pubs are filled with all ages, and the young people here are not to blame for anything to do with the control virus. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really blaming anybody on it. If you think pharma mafia is bad, you don't know about the rest of the mafia. I think they just have different MOs. They're, the rest of the mafia is trying to make a lot of money off a specific subset, but they pretty much leave the rest of the people alone. Whereas a big pharma now is trying to like control everybody with this vaccine thing. So one thing about the mafia is unless you're fairly unlucky, you can mostly just avoid problems with them by just not getting involved in that world. But big pharma, they got their fingers in everything. Even the youngsters are not that bad in the UK. Trust me, I should know. Every country's got their troublemaking kids and their good kids and stuff. I don't really have any special feelings about them being bad there. And you got your good neighborhoods and your bad neighborhoods, just like we do. Yeah, but they say you get the timeline you concentrate on. So definitely think about good stuff, what we want to see happen. Rainbow, glaciers, and solutions to the autoimmune problem. Even sound therapy or breathing 100% oxygen for 2 hours a day with 5-minute breaks every 30 minutes could be cure for illnesses. It could be. And you know what? If you really believe it is, that may be enough to make it really be. I mean, I do believe the power of belief is way stronger than we have given it credit. Believing that a problem will get solved, I think, has very strong power in getting it solved. And believing that something will come out of the woodwork that will circumvent what Big Pharma is doing, I think is enough to make it happen. So if you look at like the TV narrative, they're trying to sell you a narrative, like a fear porn narrative, and then you see other like we're all doomed, doom and gloom narratives. And I think you got to be really careful about those narratives, because if you believe in them strongly, I think that gives them power. And that's why I say, look for the exceptions, the solutions, the ways around. Believe that there's going to be solutions and exceptions and ways around problems. And just by looking for them alone, you give that power. And that's the kind of thing that we want to have power, is the solutions and the ways around problems. Look for them. The more you look for them, I think the more they will show themselves and the more power we'll give to those. So like ivermectin is one of those things. It came out of the blue. I mean, even if the control virus is nothing but a nasty flu sucks. And if enough people have a nasty flu, and hospitals that are only this far away from being full on an average winter, it could cause some problems in the hospitals. So if you can stay out of the hospital, if you can cut the length of the flu in half, by all means, you definitely want to do it. All right, anyways, I think I'm about done anyways. I got all my Mandelas, I think. Let me check here. Slugs, nuts, cripple stalk, crabs. Yep, that's it. I'm done. Check yumnaturals.com. She has beautiful DMSO products that I brought and I'm using. The owner is an awake person. Cool. Yeah, I get mine from Caitlin's Treasure Box on eBay. She's also very good. She's been selling DMSO for like 30 years or something. So she also has very good stuff. They probably all come from the same original place, to be honest. There's probably only like one main or two main manufacturers for DMSO. Anyone notice nails have become softer lately? I think mine probably not. Hand nails. Okay, yeah. No, I don't think so for me personally. There's genetic shifts though. I mean, like I think my head's gotten a little more pointy. Like last month, I was kind of upset my hair wouldn't lay the way I'm used to it laying, and I finally realized it's not my hair's fault. I think my head's a little pointier, and that's why the hair is pointy. Um, there's so you might have been shifts in your genetics there. Has a shift in the Sopranos logo chain been covered? I don't know. I haven't covered it. Sopranos. I don't think I knew what it was before though. Sopranos. Oh. Okay, I don't remember the gun though. I don't remember the gun. I thought I don't remember that funky the either. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't remember the gun. Not all of the thes have a weird thing, but interesting. Okay. You guys remember that gun thing in the R? Because I don't remember it. It's kind of cool. Cry on was right. I don't know what that one is. Oh, yeah, okay. The R changed to a gun. See, I hadn't even read it, but I'm right. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't remember that gun. It's cool. You know, this timeline loves their unique weirdo logos, but I have to say that one's a neat one. I don't know who came up with it. Did you see? Was that on other channels? I don't know. But I definitely agree that that is fishy. Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody's getting a. You know, I was looking at my head from the side because the way if I have this and then I can look like this and I can see myself from the side very easily, and I just it seems like the head is just getting longer back here. I just don't remember it there being that much territory to the back of my head. It's a little fishy. Oh, deck the halls. Yeah, there's a lot of I think those are all older ones though for me. The ones that the other channels are covering for the Christmas songs. It seemed like they were all older ones. Like ones from a couple like last year, the year before. I bet you have the cone head too. We'll have to put your face on there too. I think everybody's is though getting longer. Found any residue of the painting poker playing dogs? No, not the original. I wish I missed the old dogs playing poker. Jack the Halls. What was it? Halls is back. What was it before? Because I don't remember it not being Halls. What was it? Deck? What were they decking in the other timeline? Now I'm really curious. There's been a lot of you know, people are saying they think there was a shift like maybe like 5 days ago, and I was pretty tired. So oh, deck the hall. Oh, you know what? I do think I remember that. Deck the hall. No, I don't think I remember that. I don't think I remember hall. I don't think I was in that timeline. But there's a bunch of people just kind of with more timelines coming to retcon just to like they're like, oh, remember when it was blah blah blah. I'm like, no, that it's just like more timelines have come into the story. It was Hall for a year, huh? Deck the hall with. I don't remember it being Hall. Maybe I just shifted over here. I don't know. It was Kirstie Alley for me for many years. Um, I don't remember her like way, way back. I just wasn't into that stuff enough. But for the last like maybe 10 years, it was Kirstie Alley for me. Yeah, getting closer to the rulers, the skulls of the rulers of Egypt and other places, very long heads. Yeah, and maybe that's kind of priming the imagination with all those images. I don't know, but I definitely feel like we're going that way slowly. There's a lot of new people on Retcon. Yeah, they're coming in with these new timeline versions, but there'll be more than one that agrees. I don't think it's a lie or anything. I think they just a new batch from new timelines. My head had one little flat spot on the top caused by my grandmother, but now I've got a couple larger flattened ones. So weird. Figured I would have noted any of that in Bath. Yep. So for our generic, it was Kirstie Alley. Makes sense. Alrighty, well, I'm thinking it might be like a new miracle that I will finish by 2 hours and get some decent amounts of sleep. So, special thanks to all you guys. I think that's my opinion. We're merging with another batch of timelines. I'm a kind of emerging timelines fan, so. Anyways, so think good thoughts, everybody. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.